Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Sahil, Rahi, Roy here for the ISB show. Today we do a deep dive, part of our series of deep dives of various different teams. Roy's wearing his bright red. He does not own this jersey, but this is the closest that we could get because today we're talking about our neighbors to the north, the Canadian national team. And we are going to talk about the state of the Canadian soccer team, what's going on with Canada, why they didn't win the World Gold Cup, what is going to happen, are they ready for the Gold Cup, is Marsch the right guy, all of those things. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, stay tuned. Rahi, we got to kick it off. What's going on with these boys?
This is sad to me because right now, where we are after a Gold Cup, I said going in with the talent they have, they should win this tournament. It's a disaster that they got out in the quarterfinals. And I'm sad because it's a team that's full of exciting, talented players that I've actually had the pleasure of meeting, and they are the nicest guys. And that, to me, to have a team in this state is really sad. And I don't know, Roy. I'm a little upset about where they are, and I'll get to that in a second. I don't think the players are to blame.
I disagree with that last part. I agree with the rest. I think Canada has given us, for a few years now, the illusion of progress. And it wasn't really an illusion before, because Canada 10 years ago was terrible. This was a terrible national team, on par with teams like, I don't want to call these other teams terrible, but they were on par with Guatemala. They were on par with a lower performing Honduras team. They weren't in the conversation for the best team in the region ever. They weren't making World Cups. They were never talked about in the same level as Mexico and the United States. But now, for the past 2-3 years, they've been up there. And for me, over the past 2-3 years, they've been the best in the region. Yeah. So to see what's going on recently, it's starting to feel like it's more of an illusion of progress. Like, what's going on now where you have a coach that seemed to be the right fit from the get-go, seemed to be the right fit. He had the motivation, he had the personality, he had the attitude in the media. Tactically, he seemed to figure out what works best for this team. Then they leave the Gold Cup against Guatemala.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. So let's start with with a problem here, and then we'll get to down the line if we can figure it out for you Canadians. But what's wrong, Rahi?
What's wrong is the attitude at the top. That's what's wrong with this team. This manager has managed to make every single press conference, every single game about the manager, about himself. And that is doing a disservice to the talent on this team. This team has, now injured, but Alphonso Davies, inarguably the best player this region has produced in a long time. And has Tajon Buchanan, yes, coming off an injury, one of the most exciting young wingers I've seen in a long time. And has Steven Eustachio, a midfielder who's solid, who does all the right things. It has Alistair Johnston, a defender who is doing incredible things at the club level. It has Ishmael Kone. It has Bombito. This is a team.
Kyle Larin, dude. There's so many.
Right? It has Jonathan David, one of the most exciting young strikers. Player by player, these are incredibly talented individuals. Player by player, these are people that have incredible attitudes, incredible work ethics, incredible humility.
Yep.
The problem is at the top, you have a manager who has tried to make the narrative about him. And instead of taking pressure off the players, Roy, it's put so much more pressure on the players. He's tried to push them to the edge, to tell them to be relentless. And what that's led to, he's gone too far. Injuries and people losing their head. Brant Schaffelberg, a silly yellow card that seems a direct result of a manager who doesn't know where the line is, doesn't know where the line stops, and when you take a moment, when you breathe, when you calm down, and when you realize that you're up 1-0 against a team that you are better than. It's not always relentless press. It's not always a relentless attack. In the second half, you're down a man. You bring on forwards. You bring on attacking players when you're up a goal and down a man. This inability to adapt to the circumstances, adapt to the attitudes of his players is really problematic, Roy, and it's going to wear thin.
Interesting. Rocky, I did not expect you to not only double down, but triple down on the view that this is entirely on Jesse Marsch. I did not expect that, not in a million years. Just 6 months ago, we were saying Jesse Marsch should have been the U.S. men's national team coach
I
because
never
of how
said that.
well he was
I
doing.
never said that. I never said that.
Yeah, you hinted it with your eyes, with your face. I saw you. So that's strange. I find that strange that this is the reason you think the Canadian national team is doing bad. I think that's a part of the reason. I think currently, right now, in the past couple games, Jesse Marsch has gotten wrong tactically. But I think the problem, you said starts at the top. I don't think you went high enough, Rocky. The problem starts at the top, absolutely, but it starts higher than Jesse Marsch. This federation, if we think the United States National Federation is in disarray and is a complete disaster and has ulterior motives and corruption, let's look at the Canadian Federation. The Canadian Federation is a disaster, absolute disaster, poor leadership from the top. It's been plagued by budget issues, which doesn't make any sense because the Canadian national team is more popular than it ever has been. They're filling the stands. Fans are interested. Fans are bought in. They're paying money for tickets for the first time in history for this national team. Now, budget issues left and right where they can't even afford to play in certain tournaments. They can't afford to have friendlies. They had to rename their national team Canadian national team of Major League Soccer to get some kind of sponsorship. Like, what is going on at the federation level? I know I'm just talking about money, but it goes to players as well. When the federation is this much of a disaster, if you work for a company where the leadership are disastrous, they're not acting in the best interests of you as an employee, are you going to feel motivated? Are you going to want to fight for this jersey? Are you going to want to fight for your employers? Not really. So this starts at the top of the top. That's where this starts. This federation needs to figure itself out, needs to figure out how to actually run a national team. And then we may start seeing some improvements. We may start seeing this national team hit the potential they have. So that for me is number one.
Okay, stop. Players, manager, or federation? Who bears the brunt of the responsibility?
All of them, dude. All of them, 100%. But it starts with the federation.
I agree. I'd say pieces of all, but I want to change it now to a little bit of a positive spin. And I want to say, how can, based on these things that are in place, how can Canada take its team to the next level? Because we know this stuff is there. I'm going to get to, all these pieces in a second. But how does this team take it to the next level? Like, which of these levers can they pull to get there? Because now it's time to show up. There's no more of these excuses that Canada can make, right? The Gold Cup was their version of the US's Copa America failure, right? And so now what are they going to do about it?
Yeah. And I think the advantage they have is that they still have incredible players. Those players aren't going anywhere. They don't have depth, but nor does any team in CONCACAF at the moment.
Yep.
And that's okay. They don't have the depth that maybe we hoped they did. But they still have the players, and it's up to the manager to understand that he needs to change the way he's putting pressure on this team. Look at the personalities on this team. Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, these aren't loud, brash guys, and that's okay. You have to adapt to the players you have. It's not always about being angry. It's not always about fighting. Sometimes it's about being level-headed. Sometimes it's about playing with your own authentic personality. And this Canadian team, to me, gives an air of confidence, of sort of, these are kind individuals. You don't need to find that anger. And I think it's up to also the leadership within the team, Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, to bring their personalities to the front and to kind of push back a little bit on the way this manager is trying to change the narrative. It's the players can bring a sense of calm, bring a sense of experience. These are players that have played in massive games, right? Champions League games. And so I do think that the leadership structure within the team needs to take more of a vocal and more of a heavy hand here. And as they do that, as Alphonso Davies, as Jonathan David, take more of the burden of leadership away from the manager, I think you will see this team blossom because they have the players to do it. And then it's really up to the manager to change his tone, to keep things quiet for a little bit, to turn down the volume, to take the microscope off Canada, to be quiet a bit in the media, to let them work under the radar. Because honestly, Roy, despite he's been talking about how a lot of the work has been his, how he's changed the team, but that's not true.
Yeah,
Give credit to John Herdman for doing all that he's done. John Herdman took this team to the pinnacle of qualification, beating Mexico at home, beating the US at home, tying both those teams on the road. So for me, it's up to the progress is about finding the professionalism, about finding the calm, about finding this sort of even head, even keel, and that players will do it. But it's up to Jesse Marsch to kind of tone down the volume. Let the players lead. Let the
Roy,
players
I want to ask you a very direct question, and this is it. Is Jesse Marsch still the right manager for you for Canada?
I think so, as long as he's willing to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
I agree with some of the stuff Rocky is saying, not all of it, but there need to be adjustments made. Tactical is one.
Yes.
To start it off, the tactical, the high press with these fast players, Schaffelberg, Jaden Nelson, Alphonso Davies. There are some fast, powerful players on this team. So it makes sense to focus on pressing. It makes sense to focus on that high intensity style of play because you got fit players, you got young players, you got fast players. So yes, but this team needs to figure itself out tactically because it can't just be that all the time.
Right.
It's going to lead to disaster at the World Cup.
And injuries.
And injuries as well. But the part I don't agree with necessarily is that Jesse Marsch's attitude and his intensity and his belief in this team and the way he's pushing this team to rise up and be monsters and be angry. I don't think that's a problem. I think the national team
belief, Roy.
I didn't just say belief. I said a million other things.
After this Gold Cup, he said, well, to be honest, we didn't have half our team. These kind of excuses are not like that to me. If you're going to take the pressure, take all the pressure, take the blame, say it was my fault. Don't blame the fact that you're missing Alphonso Davies and Bombito.
But this is aside. Rocky, this press conference is aside from what's going on with the national team. The national team, if you watch the games, there are players that are turned off. There are players who aren't performing the way they should be performing. There are players who are drastically underperforming. There are players who aren't being the powerful, incredible, talented talents that they are with this national team. It almost looked like Brazil, where you have this influx of extreme talent that's in Champions League, that's in Bayern Munich, that's arguably the best player to come out of this region, and they're not really playing at that intensity. So I understand Jesse Marsch trying to hype this team up, trying to bring them up, trying to get them angry, trying to get them pissed off, because like you said, these guys are kind of calm. They're calm, they're quiet, and maybe we need someone to come in and be angry. Who's a midfield general? Who's the leader on this team? Name him.
Yeah, I mean, look, they didn't have Steven Eustaquio. Steven Eustaquio, they didn't have him this tournament, but again, he is not that type of personality where like the type of personality you're saying.
Type of personality. Yeah. I really don't think you do, and their players are so good. And to be honest, the best Canadian performance, I think, yes, Venezuela was a big win, but in the past 5 years was against Belgium in the World Cup. They were incredible in that game, right?
They were incredible, yes. Yeah, but so I think now kind of like going back to just finishing up here on this thought, how does the team take it to the next level is I think it's about game management, in-game management by the team. And I've seen the same narrative over and over with Canada, right? The Croatia game was the same thing, right? Score early, can't keep the lead. We've seen this multitudes of times. We saw this against, the latest Guatemala iteration, right? You saw that in the Jamaica game where Jamaica came back. Yeah. So for whatever reason, Canada takes the early lead and then they have an inability afterward to manage these matches and see these matches out. Is that due to the manager? Is that due to the personnel on the field? I think that's the biggest area of focus. Unfortunately, I don't have the answers for that specific aspect of it, but that's where the majority of the focus needs to be for Canada. Maybe it's a tactical thing. Maybe it's a tactical shift that needs to happen within the match, but that's what I feel.
It's a great point. It's sort of, it could be even these minor in-game adjustments because let's be candid, they were cruising in this game.
Yeah.
They were until the red card.
Yeah. So for all our Canadian fans out there, let us know your thoughts. What's going on with the national team? What will improve the national team? Is Jesse Marsch still the right guy for your team? But we will be back with more covering the Canadian national team. I'll give you guys a quick final thought before we finish up here. What you got?
Nice players, nice people, nice country. It's okay to have a nice team and just play really beautiful soccer.
Nah, you can't be an underdog and be nice. Simple as that. No underdog is nice. Underdogs are monsters. They're killers. They have the mentality of fierce competitors because they need to punch above their weight. So I understand why Jesse Marsch is trying to instill this. But one quick point, is the Canadian national team really in this state of disarray?
No.
Are they? Look at the past results. Like you said, they were coasting against Guatemala before the terrible decision from Schaffelberg. You play down a man for almost the entirety of a game, and it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. So I don't know if it's panic button time.
Okay.
The video
All
sounded like panic button time, but I don't think it's there.
Yeah. So we shall see. So for all you out there enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel. Canada, good luck to the Canucks as they move forward. We'll continue to cover, of course, the national team and keep watching the beautiful game. See you all soon.